We've waited 6 months for Nightmare, but you don't have to wait any longer for the Vox Cascadia podcast. Welcome back, gentlemen. We have some exciting announcements, but how are y'all doing? Tyler, welcome back, buddy.
No, I'm doing real good. I had some sushi today at Bamboo out in Beaverton, and it was wonderful. So,
What took you up to Beaverton? That's a little ways away from you.
I'm all over all the time. So you never know where I'm going to pop up.
Yeah, I did the Tyler route on this weekend. I was in Vancouver to Beaverton to Vancouver to Salem all weekend. So I felt like I had a little bit of insight into your life, your daily life, except I had to deal with my family. So
Yeah, it's probably like similarly stressful. Customers either way.
Connor, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Glad to be here as always. Like you said, Nightmare got announced for a proper release date, so that's very exciting. Everyone throughout the Kill Team community is rejoicing.
I know. Finally, we have an announcement for this. Everybody's been waiting for it every single Sunday, 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever time it is over in Britain. We've been patiently waiting by our phones, looking refreshing, and finally this weekend we have some respite, and we have to wait like 3 more weeks for it, and finally the Nightmare is officially over.
Yeah, I think it's coming out sooner than we expected on the 13th, right?
Yeah, 14th I think is when it is. So 1 week before the Blunt Force Beatdown. We gonna let the Mandrakes and Night Lords play at the Blunt Force Beatdown, Tyler?
We are, absolutely. Since the rules are coming out this weekend, which is 2 weeks in advance, even if it was just a week in advance, which they would meet for the full release, we would allow it. So, really excited about that, see what they can do on the board.
Well, I'm going to get mine painted up and ready to go for me to help TO that tournament. So, but if anybody wants to play mine, let me know. I will knock out the Mandrakes. I think they're going to paint up really quick. So, what have you guys been up to in the hobby, though?
I've been getting some bodies ready for Night Lords. I have a huge stash of Chaos stuff, so getting that ready. Pretty hyped.
Are you looking forward to the Nightmare box or some extra bits? Is there some guys you want to build?
Definitely, like, the bits are going to be fun. Who doesn't love like Batwing helmets? As a Night Lords fan through and through, my old Legionaries Kill Team's Night Lords. For anyone who doesn't know, pretty excited. I'm not sure if any of those operatives will make the jump over to the new Night Lords team, though. So that'll be interesting to see.
I think you just got to go fresh and build like the whole team out of the box, and maybe use what you're doing, but you can't carry that over that other team. You got to go fresh on it. What about you, Connor?
Yeah, that's crazy, Tyler. If you're doing an entirely new, like 16 men roster or whatever you need to make a full Legionaries one. But I'm excited to see it. We posted your old Legionaries on your story, and then we'll probably have them up on KTC this week, or rather Vox Cascadia this week. So if you're listening, go check those out. But I myself, also as spotted on Vox Cascadia, started a Warp Coven team. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but the balanced Dataslate came out and made those teams look real fun and playable for the first time in quite a while. So I bought the bullet and I've started building some rubrics.
Well, I'm glad to see you're jumping on the meta and, staying away from the ad mech. Myself, I finished up 2 more guys for my Inquisitorial Agents. I did a proxy of a Interrogator and a Pistolier using some of the bodies from one of the Underworld's teams. I think it turned out pretty good. I've been using the Fanatic paints. I'm really excited about those. I was lucky enough to be able to get the entire set, and I'm really enjoying them. I also worked on an orc to fill out my orc team now that they're not the meta. I've got one more boy. I got a beast snaga online and working on some layering with those guys too. So I feel like I can play them now that they're not the super sweaty meta. Not that I've ever played the sweaty meta, but it'll be fun to run those guys out. I think they're going to be really cool, but need something to replace the flamer with. One more boy for that.
Like, you'd still want to build the flamer, though. It's always good to have on hand for a few matchups, right? And you give him a Choppa, and he's still fairly decent.
Well, we'll talk about the Choppas soon. I do have the flamer though, and I did build that one because it was just too cool a model, and I just go by most of the time I go by rule of cool for building stuff, which is why I'm having to build another like 8 bodies for my vet card guys, and they're built and ready to be painted. But when I first started Kill Team, I built everything wrong, and I just went really cool with stuff, and there's a lot of flamers in my teams.
Like, I'm a personal fan of the Orc Flamer. You guys will see why soon, though. I know I posted some sneak peeks of that.
That you did, and they looked very, very cool. So make sure everyone you come down to Blunt Force Beatdown. I think that's where we're gonna have probably some of what Tyler's hinting at. So definitely make your way down there.
Well, there's just a couple tickets left for it, but we did have this week a balanced data slate, and I didn't think it was going to get. I didn't think we were going to get a quarter one balanced data slate. We got it. We got a quarter four one, and then they've just been like dragging it on. I was hoping we get it pre Adepticon so we could have those rules in effect for Adepticon, but they finally actually got it out for us. So let's talk about that a little bit. So big thing is they did some stuff to start off with beta Decima. So jump tests automatically successful. Do not roll jump tests. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely huge fan. While this is a dice game, I think randomness to that extent where something that you can't really control or like command point reroll, just running your game plan and now you're like key operative standing in the middle or you can't touch an objective because you just happen to roll really bad is probably one of the worst feels bads in the game. Like if you roll bad on a shooting attack, that happens. There's ways to relatively mitigate that. But something like a jump test that's so key to your plan and like the ability for your operative to do anything failing sucks. So I'm very glad that guy got changed.
Do you think they should have put some instance of like some penalty? Maybe like maybe don't fail the jump test, but some sort of like mortal wounds or something like that.
I think that just the 2-inch penalty is enough. When you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint, you want like stuff pretty playable. You want people to be able to make their moves and know what they're doing. For narrative, I think adding in like mortal wounds or stuff like that, maybe your operative falls and die. I think that's really fair.
Yeah, or like maybe something where if you fail the jump test, there was at least a way like because you failed it, your character is holding on or like they're lying prone. So they still get across, but they can't move any further. Something like that at least could feel a little bit better. Or like the jump test was bad, so they stopped moving, but then they're lying on the ground, so you can at least say they get like an auto cover retain for saves or something. Could have been fun, but I think this is just the best case scenario for like I said, just general competitive play.
Yeah, I wish I would have put something in that made jumps a little bit more dangerous, but I understand why they didn't do it. It seems a very like overly reactionary change to it, but it is what it is, and now we don't have to worry about it. So another thing you did that actually is specifically for beta Decima is restricted line of sight. So target operative is not visible instead of obscured. So if they're 2 inch or excuse me 2 white behind or through the water, then they're not visible. So we don't have to worry about the phobos or other shenanigans taking them out of and being able to be shot.
I think that's a huge improvement overall for just playability of it. I still think that there's some issues with the terrain as it sits. Once you get up top, there's very little cover. Although I am pretty excited about the way the Nightmare terrain seems to interface with it. It provides pretty large base with a variety of cover and stuff like that. So it may be pretty useful.
Yeah, Nightmare has that big chonky piece of terrain that's going to sit to, I think, add a little bit more cover across the board. It's bigger than the Feratonic Furnace or whatever it is in the middle. And I'm assuming, put that like one end of the board or like one segment of the board, and it's going to block a lot of stuff and be pretty helpful for that.
Yeah, overall, I just think it's a solid change to make it that the clouds and smoke from the water is just providing visibility denied stuff rather than just obscuring denying. It's much better and feels like Phobos and the teams that can ignore obscuring aren't just auto win for the most part. And like you said, the big terrain piece, I'm very excited to see how that will play out. And especially the mission layouts they might add in with this new Nightmare box. And hopefully, if they do, some more cool ones with Termination, because that terrain looks really neat too.
So, and then the last update they did to Beta Decima is they changed tac ploys. So tac ploys that allow one or more operatives to be set up outside your drop zone, like Sneaky Git or Dimensional Translocation. Operatives have to be wholly within 4 inches of your drop zone. So what do you guys think about that one?
While I fully agree it's probably a healthier change because it just means people can't automatically deploy on top of the big furnace and just win the game off that. The Hunter Clade player in me is sad because I really liked forward deploying the infiltrators and just auto winning the game.
Auto winning, because Hunter Clade are taking home all the tournaments. Is that what it is?
Not so much that, but I just having a guy be able to deploy on an objective and to snag it for free or more so on the furnace, which just has visibility over everything, was really, really powerful. And even if it's only an infiltrator with a stub carbon, that's still a ceaseless bolter shooting down on someone round 2 that they're likely not going to be able to get up on top of until like round 2 itself or round 3.
I'm glad to see that Hunter Clade have gotten more nerfs.
Yeah, no, I can't complain. Like we're about to talk about on the Dataslate, overall changes beyond this. Most of our worst matchups got nerfed or like slight nerfs in some way. So it was a very good birthday present. So thank you, GW.
Yeah, you have the honor of being like the 5th worst matchup for like every team now.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. Hopefully they'll give me some luck on April.
Top 5 is pretty good. So can you make top 5 in April?
I'm really hoping for it. I'm going to try and take home the gold all the way. I want to win it solo, all by myself. And then after that, maybe take a break from Hunter Clade for a bit. Maybe I'll play my Warp Coven or my Heretic Circle.
Well, Tyler and I have been talking about the belt for Blunt Force Beatdown. We're going to order that, I think, this week. So you've already got one belt. Maybe you can take home another one?
Then I could get 2 belts and hold extra big, extra large pants.
This will be our largest belt yet, also. So it'll be significantly bigger than the last ones.
That's what she said. So let's talk about some of the changes. Let's start with commandos and vet guards. Some of the boogeymen for the meta recently. So the bomb squig APLs, the operative's APL characters cannot be positively modified for the bomb squig special rule. Make a shooting attack against each other operative within its engagement range. So you can't be within, you have to be in engagement range now. So you have to basically charge in and then you can do the bomb squig shoot blow up thing. What do you think about that?
I think that's overall a positive thing. It really removes the bomb squig as a liability on deployment, and it still makes it useful, but not kind of this ultra intimidating thing that could be anywhere at any given time. And especially if we combine that with that it can't get additional APL, which was one of the other changes. Overall solid change to commandos that balances them out quite a bit, I think.
It seems like with the flavor even too, it would make sense that the bomb squig has to like charge into someone and then blow up rather than charge and get kind of near them and blow up. You'd think that just with the bomb squig itself, it'd have to like run into someone and then it would explode.
Yeah, it's just it's a solid change, I think, overall. And Tyler said the APL modifier. I think that's extremely useful because, well, it wasn't always the most common. Seeing that guy move dash like 9 inches after maybe like getting the recon, it could be pretty brutal. And just on certain like into the dark boards, it was really, really powerful opening move. So having it be that it has to be engagement range is a pretty nice change.
So we also had the Choppa equipment subtract 1 from the weapon's attack characteristics, except on the Commando boys. So a little less melee threat from some of the guys with Choppas.
I mean, it still is pretty good for breakpoints, but, objectively, 3 attacks is worse than 4. So it's really going to depend on matchup and what you're trying to do with your boys at this point. It makes them less of a oppressive melee team that could just get in your face and charge you from conceal and consistently take on basically anyone in melee.
Yeah, it's a huge buff to any team with stuns, so our BD's finally getting a little bit of love indirectly, but now it just means it's a far less consistent thing, because if they only have 3 attacks, like, odds are you hit 1 or 2, very rarely will be all 3, especially if there's some sort of, like, debuff you can put on them beforehand. And having that stun crit, most of the stun melee profiles generally have, like, lethal 5, you're probably able to get your way out of parry. You're still going to be taking damage and locked in engagement range, but at least you're not losing your operative like to a Preacher Boy, early game shenanigan charge or anything like that.
So then the final change for commandos is just a scratch, excluding bomb squig, and when damage would be inflicted from normal hit only. So they changed it so you can't do just a scratch on crits anymore. I think this is a really good change. It's still, you can still use it every turn for a CP, but it's not going to be taking away those big hitters.
Yeah, I think this is an overall positive change for the team. It makes it so that they can't just, walk away from melee without a scratch,
Yeah, definitely very nice. Fully agree it's positive. And I also find it pretty funny that says excluding the squig, but in theory the grot, as far as I can tell, could still use it, which is pretty amusing to imagine a grot just shrugging off like a power sword crit or in this case, normal hit or something like that.
If you want to hear how nasty the grot can be, go back to, I think it's episode 1 when we talked about the Las Vegas Open, when a grot tanked like 3 of my Casterkins going to melee with them. So, and that was, a lot of that was just a scratch, I think, too. So I think this is a good change. I would have taken out that grot. Let's talk about Vet Guard. So Vet Guard, Spotter Veteran, Operatives Spotter action. It treats enemy operatives as if it has an engage order unless the enemy operative is in cover provided by heavy terrain. So I think a lot of people have been looking for this since the beginning. So now I'm assuming you have to be in light terrain to actually get your order flipped.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like now. And this is a completely positive change, and it should have been done like at the beginning, like you were saying. I don't know how it's gone almost 2 years, or well, more than 2 years at this point, without getting changed, honestly.
I think it's basically Dakota has been lobbying Games Workshop to not change them because, Vet Guard main over there, he's been doing everything he can to keep them where they're at. So, but we got a couple other changes from them too. Demo veterans, operatives, detonate special rule, change the distance requirement to white instead of blue. Operative cannot be a valid target of heavy terrain, is wholly intervening, and must be able to draw a cover line from center, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you can't shoot through walls with this anymore, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Essentially, no more blowing up walls, which is overall a good change, though thematically I'm kind of sad because I like the idea of using him as like you're planting C4 and then blowing up a hole in the wall, but that's not really a thing that we can replicate easily on terrain. So this is definitely just a good change overall, and the range restriction is nice too, just making it a little bit easier to avoid having to spread your models out as much, especially around objectives and the like.
I'm a big fan of stuff not going through walls. Torment grenade, that's my thing. Don't go through walls. So I'm glad to see that they're getting a little better across the board with stuff not going through walls.
How about not through ceilings? I think that would be fair. But like you could throw it over a wall,
I mean, if we go you can go over a wall, but not through a wall. I mean, because you can throw grenades over walls and stuff, but you can't throw grenades through walls. So I
But it's
understand that.
it's like a nano gas mine thing, space magic toxin. It's like seeping through the walls. Gas.
Yeah, I know. I can still feel it in my house here because you brought a torment grenade into my house, Tyler.
No, that's just the fart. I crop dusted you. I'm sorry.
Well, there's that too, but that's also so other things going on in this house. So, anyways, all right. And then the demo veteran playmine action can only be done once per game. So, and from what I hear, most people weren't getting that off more than once per game, anyways. But I'm sure the people that were suffering that more than once per game are happy for that.
Yeah, it was something that was a nice kind of added in flavor. But like I said, I don't really hear it happen too often other than against very new players where you're kind of already going to beat them as it is if you're doing that. So it's just an overall change. I think that's more meant to be like consistency with the Casterkin Mind Layer and the Phobos Mind Layer and stuff like that.
Yeah, everybody said that was if you were doing that more than once per game, it was basically you were already winning anyway, so it wasn't a big deal.
But overall, for Octarius, it's nice to see some changes for these guys, especially Vet Guard, who have gone pretty much the entire game, other than indirect core rule change, getting a little bit of a touchdown, or not a touchdown, but a tone down. Hopefully that breaks up some of their strength overall, and maybe we see a little bit more variety of horde teams.
So now one of the big nerfs that everybody except these players are happy about is the Void Dancer troop. Clowns, all operatives remove fly, they gain flip belts. What do you guys think about the changes to the clowns?
Great change. This is such a solid change that just will overall increase the ability for me to play against Hearthkin. Where did I get that? Against the clowns and not feel like, man, this match just sucks. It's way more consistent. I like that a lot. The flip belts, it should have just been that from the beginning. And I'm very glad that this will make this team feel a little bit less bad to play into.
It does kind of suck that they lost, like Traverse and stuff like that. That would make sense with things like this, but overall, much better. I do think this is a positive change overall. The support grip completely avoided any kind of nerf, which is crazy to me also. So they're still very strong.
I think John Reese, Can You Roll a Crit, was saying that he liked this change. He was super excited about it, but it was also thinking that the domino field maybe should have gone back to just like 1 CP. Do you guys think the domino field should have been changed back in 1 CP rather than like 1 CP plus?
I think that domino field is realistically only used one time in the game. Making it just 1 CP all the time is going to make it a lot more prevalent and may make the team quite a bit stronger overall. It provide a lot of safety for models in the backfield and stuff like that to set up later charges and things.
Yeah, ironically enough, I think it might be getting more play now because without the team-wide fly, they're going to be a slower team overall. So the situations where you're outside of 6 and can use domino field might have gone up. So if like maybe the play rate or the win rate for the team drops drastically, I could see that happening. But for now, I'm glad they are taking the slow approach. And you know what? If clowns are bad for a while, that's okay with me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's like sad about the clowns being bad for a while.
And if they are sad about it, then they're a clown.
Yeah, sad clown noises. And then we had Wormblade. It just kind of had a clarification, less of a update than more of a clarification on it. But we had Warp Coven, who had a lot of stuff that changed with them, and they might actually be good now. Connor, do you want to go through the Warp Coven since you're going to be playing them, it sounds like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing for Warp Coven, first of all, exciting. One team finally got an entire page. We've reached it, lads. There's one team that's just that much of a problem child. So, biggest thing, Exalt to the Astartes. The rubrics can double shoot, and your sorcerers can double shoot or double fight. That's just free all the time now. That is huge, because it means sorcerers are at the power level that, like, Legionary and... or they were always pretty strong compared to Legionary, like, just base sorcerer versus model, but it puts them on par with, like, Assault and normal Intercessor Marines, which is good, because realistically, they should be stronger. They're a sorcerer. They're better than just some basic Marine, so I'm really happy with that change. You guys have any thoughts for that one at least, or should I go through all of them first?
Oh, this is your new main after you win the tournament, so just run it through us, buddy.
All right, hopefully I can win it, and then I can start playing Warp Coven. And if you have an interest in playing Warp Coven, check out Pat's guide on them. Posted one up on Disregarding Dice, and we'll be sure to link it in the notes and then on the Instagram as well. But beyond that, Rubric Marines also getting a little bit of a nice buff. Instead of being within 6 to get the third or access to the third APL, they now have to be within 9 of a friendly sorcerer. That is a huge change as well, because it's not even requiring visibility. It's a straight up be within 9 inches. That's very easy to do. Huge bonus to them. And I think probably the best change overall, besides the free Exalted Astartes, Zangors, +1 inch to their move, or +1 wound to their health pool. That is huge. It means that most attacks are no longer 2-shotting them. Like Power Swords, sure, a crit and a hit still kills you, but 2 basic attacks, you're not going down anymore. That's a big breakpoint advantage for them. The Psychic Powers also, actually, I'm sorry, I'm a liar. This is the biggest change. It's Psychic Powers now change all instances of the end of the turning point to the start of this operative's next activation until it's incapacitated or until the Psychic Power is selected again, whichever comes first. This is a change I know a lot of people have been asking for since the Herotech Circle kind of came out with this change, and it's just extremely great. Makes it that the Warp Coven team doesn't really always need to win initiative first, so that's a huge bonus to them. There's a lot more viability for the psychic spells, which is cool and very exciting. And then just a little bit of a nerf for Imperial Instability. It's now subtract an inch instead of a circle. That's exciting because hopefully it means it's less common you're facing this, and it's just less of an auto use every time. And even if it is, now that it lasts every turning point essentially until the start of the next one even, it doesn't matter if it's only subtracting an inch, because that will add up very quickly.
I was going to say, I think overall that's it makes the team a lot less annoying to play against. It's still, you're able to get some movement in against them rather than them just completely crippling any kind of movement for the team. I think that's a really positive change, because I think that in the past, Warp Coven was, when played at its top level, annoying at best. Like, you play it and like their hope was to just annoy the hell out of you. Now it really feels like they do have some play.
Absolutely, fully agree. This it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with jump tests. It kind of sucks when the game's just lost because movement doesn't work out, and not even because you mismeasured, but just because you can't reach objectives. That's a really sucky feeling. And like you said, will hopefully make them less annoying or frustrating to play against. And overall, solid change. And then last but not least, another pretty powerful, not as much as the psychic powers or the Zangar's gone up with 1 wound, but the Arcane Robes equipment, which I believe is equivalent to just a scratch. I know it's some sort of damage reduction. I should have known this, considering I was going to be planning on talking about them. Oops,
Oh my
Connor
God,
sucks.
Connor, we're live. There's people listening.
I
right
know.
now.
I'm letting the people down. Why is...
No
there
pressure.
we go.
Just Google it. You got it.
There we go. We figured it out. All right. It was once per turning point. When critical damage would be inflicted upon this operative, use this ability. If do so, then damage inflicts normal. And it used to be once per game. Now it is once per turning point. That is a very nice change overall. That's some extra wounds essentially added on to your sorcerers. Always going to be useful. Always powerful. And pretty much means you're probably going to be taking 3 of these all game.
So one of the changes to Warp coming, and it brings me to question across, like, something we should do maybe across the board is, should we have abilities always go from when that person activates until they activate again? So like we have the psychic powers, instead of the end of the turning point, they're until the next activation of that operative. Should we have that across the board as a rule, or do you think it's going to be case by case?
I definitely think it needs to be case by case, depending on how the interactions play out and things like that is where we should base where it ends. For things like certain psychic powers like debuffs and stuff like that, I think in a lot of cases we do want it to end with the operative's next activation when they have a chance to move that debuff, like a psychic power or something like that. For things that are like permanent debuffs like poison, things like that, maybe not.
I would like to see it across the board, is basically like, if you have these powers, you do them, they work until you do something else. I think that, like, for like a poison or something, maybe that goes till the end of the turning point. But like, if you have an area denial or something, or what about like track target or something like that, or guard even too? So have a little more spice to, and a little more tactical differences as far as like, what do you do? Like, yeah, like they went on guard, they didn't do anything until the end of the turn, they didn't use it, but you're gonna be affected by the guard until the next turning point.
I think something like guard, it could be interesting. I think there are some inherent issues with guard. I'd like to see it work more like reactions in a game like Infinity, where you're reacting to the specific operative that's activating and stuff like that. And I think that we may see something like that in the next edition overall. But yeah, I definitely think something like that could work with guard specifically.
I think it'd be pretty interesting because it always does feel weird where like you set an operative on guard and then they just kind of don't do anything for the rest of the turning point. Like, sure, it might force your opponent from not touching in, but it would, in theory, make sense that maybe if you go on guard, it's like a permanent action until you remove that operative or move them or something like that. And I think overall it'd have to be case by case because there's a couple of stuff I'd be like, ooh, if that lasts till you do that action again or that operative's dead, that could be pretty brutal. Like the Inquisitorial Mystic Agent is giving someone an auto hit from a fail or an auto crit from a hit. Depending on some of those operatives on the team, you just have that Mystic Agent do that at the very start of the game and then never do that action again. That'd be pretty powerful. And I'd avoid stuff like that that could be that impactful.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that like until that operative has been removed from the turning or like the table, but more like, you activate that operative, it turns on, and then once you activate that operative again, you either have to like turn it on again or you have to do something different.
Oh, okay. I see that. That makes more sense. I think that would be less concerning to me. It would just have to, I'd really have to think about every psychic action in the game, and I can't recall them all off the top of my head right now. But I think, at least in terms of Warp Coven, it's a welcome change because people have been asking for it. They're a very similar team to Herotech, so it was odd that Herotech got it and Warp Coven didn't. And I'm glad GW's at least trying something with them because they've been probably the worst bespoke team in the game for forever. And hopefully this raises them up to at least a playable chance.
Well, sounds like they're moving up. I mean, you're thinking about playing them. I mean, I think Brandon Bean's been thinking about playing them now. So, if Bean's playing them, they got to be good, right?
He's had them for a while, and I know he's definitely thinking about playing them again. Brightside, or a little fun fact, it was the first team I ever beat him on, was him playing Warp Coven and me with my Hunter Clade, of course, and that felt very good, so Warp Coven will always have a special place in my heart for that reason.
When I met Brandon Bean at Tacoma 2022, he was playing Warp Coven back then. So it's still a fresh new game, fresh new players for both of us.
I do like that the only time you've beat him, or the first time you beat him at least, Connor, was when he was playing the hot trash team of Kill Team. So congratulations.
Hey, he still made some solid work with them, okay? And you can't take that away from him.
So moving on from Warp Coven, we have the Farstalker Kin Band. Now, they had a couple different things happen. They got some extra attacks from people, but I think one of the two things is a big thing is that the Hounds actually went from GA2 to GA1. And I've heard this is less of a buff and more of a side buff, or maybe even a debuff, because now you can only activate one Hound per time.
Yeah, I think that they should have kept the Hounds as GA2. Kind of how they played was to activate one and charge into someone, and then activate another to retrieve the item. Do stuff like that. It really takes away like a little bit of their play. I don't think any of their other changes really made the team oppressive by any means. It made them, I think, more where you'd expect them to be. This kind of, it's not necessarily bad. It's just not ideal.
Yeah, and from what I've heard is, the Kill Broker, their leader, got some extra melee attacks, but you really don't want him on melee because he can do other stuff. And then the tracker the operative, their mark for the hunt is better because you don't have to have as much distance. You can do it more often. But it sounds like they got a little bit of a tweak, but not really what they needed to be where they need to be.
Yeah, minus the Hounds, all welcome changes, at least directly increasing the power of the team. But I still think they're probably in the bottom tier for overall bespoke like strength. Besides like Arbites, I can't really think of a much worse team right now off the top of my head, which sucks because I really like the Farstalker Kinman. I think they're one of the coolest teams they've released. The models are incredible, but I just don't think they fit the power fantasy they're going for of like cool ass bounty hunting, reptile, lizard, frogman type stuff. I think overall every operative on that team could have like 4 attacks, and that would be a step in the right direction, but nothing too obscenely crazy from it. Yeah, I think they could see 4 attacks across the board regardless, and also maybe +1 wound as well, at least to a couple of them. I think 8 health, even is, despite being sort of a melee focused team, is really low amount. And I think 9 is just a solid thing because it means you're at a better health checkpoint for being wounded, as well as, or no, you're not. Math is hard. You're at the same, but it's just, you can take like 1 extra hit in melee combat, which is really, really useful for a team that has a lot of ploys and abilities designed around being in melee combat.
Yeah, I think 4 would be ideal for this team on the attacks. I think it wouldn't make them, overpowered by any means. It would just be a good baseline. If they're supposed to be kind of hunter, stalker, mercenaries, like you were saying, 4 attacks is like ideal and just like really fit the narrative feel for the team.
And then Hyrotech Circle. Can one of y'all explain this to me? Because I have no idea how these guys work at all. I just know that they won Adepticon and then got buff/nerfs. But what I've heard about these is though that they actually, like, while they nerf some things, they balance some other things too, which is a kind of a welcome change to how they're working on teams.
Basically, the changes balanced out all of the different types of mancers, like the Technomancer, Chronomancer, and Psychomancer. So they're all a little bit more viable. The Chronomancer got a bit of a nerf to the Nanomine, which is an overall positive improvement. It's still very good, but seeing the Technomancer and the Psychomancer more as a viable choice is a positive change to the team overall. Reanimation Protocols got a little bit of a buff also, so you resolve living metal beforehand, and then after it successfully reanimates on a 2+, it gains D3+3, and you can move it square, so 3 inches within the reanimation token and not within engagement range, and then choose the order. So overall, that's really dope. And then we got 3 APL to the Apprentech, which makes it a much more usable model. Get out there and do some tricks with it.
Overall, just solid changes across the board. Excited for the Apprentech going up with 3rd APL. That's a huge buff, just due to the nature of that team has, like, I think, lower APL than elites. So having 1 extra APL is very, very nice. And like you said, the living No, not living metal, but the reanimation now happening on its skill up is a big, big plus. I think there's ways, it might just only be narrative. I'll have to go and look at the equipment again, but I'm pretty sure that means with certain buffs, you're just automatically reanimating now, because I'm pretty sure there's a way to give it a +1. So that's super exciting.
Well, nothing can happen on an automatic. So 1's always a fail, and 6 is always a pass, according to the core rules. So you can't buff it any further than a 2+, but I think you can make it happen more often. But as you were saying, the action economy on this team is extremely tight. So the extra APL to the Apprentech is huge for this team.
Yeah, Shane just won Adepticon with Heretic, so I'm excited to see what people are going to be doing now with an even more powerful Heretic.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Shane can do with the new changes to them, since they apparently thought they needed like a buff and some changes even after he won the golden ticket. And I know they made the changes before he won the golden ticket and had to run them out, but I'm curious to see what Shane thinks about them. And then we have Exaction Squad, nothing. Hearthkin Salvagers, though, got some changes. The Dozer, the Nuck Smash, and I know this is an operative that most people weren't really taking. I thought it was super cool, but basically he can punch someone and then charge into someone else.
I was really hoping he's going to get the ability to punch people off of Beta Decima. Really, Beta Decima was a fail from the moment he didn't have the ability to do that, in my eyes.
Yeah, if he can't, punch someone and scream, "This is Sparta," what are we even doing here?
Yeah, after a lot of Baldur's Gate, Shove has become my favorite action, and I'm sad that's still not in Kill Team, especially with Beta Decima. But overall, that's a neat little extra flavor change. Nothing really, I imagine, that'll make that opera suddenly start popping up more, but it's a cool idea at least.
I think it's a really fun flavor thing. I think you're going to be able to jump onto a point, punch someone else, charge into someone else, fight someone else. I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really positive change. It adds a lot more flavor to the team. The Locator also completely stopping any kind of forward movement or any kind of that shenanigans is super, super good. Also, makes him even better than he was.
Yeah, I've heard he's basically an auto take now with his early detection ability. In addition, enemy operatives cannot move until the firefight phase of the first turning point. So no pregame moves.
Yeah, that's extremely strong, especially against the upcoming Night Lords too, because they have a lot of shenanigans for that.
And let's talk goats. The Felgor Ravagers had a couple big changes. So Ironhorns call the attack ability. The selective operative must be visible and within 6 inches of that operative. So no longer just visible to them.
I don't think this really changes too much with that ability. I would have liked to see the call the attack maybe be limited to once a game, just period. This feels pretty soft, in my opinion.
And then another thing with the Gnarl Scar, uncompromising attack action, can only select the auto pistol for the shooting attack. So no more shoving grenades into my mouth, kid.
Yeah, it sucks that they're losing a pretty cool ability that, throwing a crack grenade in melee is very fun, but it's just healthier. That was an extremely powerful tool and could often just mean he's one-shotting Marines and stuff, which was a little bit of a feels bad. There wasn't a ton you could really do against it, so it's nice to see this at least getting changed. It'll still be strong because it's a little bit of chip damage on a guy with a decent profile, so it won't hurt. Definitely just a solid change all around.
Then we also have the Death Knell Wargong ability. No, it no longer has effect if they're frenzied, but I've heard basically this is essentially was going to be a win more. If your Death Knell was in melee range or got frenzied, you are either screwing up or winning really big. So I heard this on a big change.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to have much effect to the team. Just like the change to Warpaint being 2 equipment points, it just means we're going to see slightly less Warpaint than we did. Probably only 2 or 3 of them overall, 7+ of them.
Actually, really quick, the Death Knell change is pretty impactful because what it meant before was just that all crits become normal damage. That meant when he was frenzied, you couldn't kill him with a crit and shooting. So that is a significant overall nerf to at least that operative, which I'm pretty happy to see because that was kind of annoying. You frenzy him, okay, cool, I roll 4 crits, and it doesn't matter, he's still on the board.
And with the Warpaint, though, the word on the street is that Kimmy Jelly, or Jimmy Kelly, or whatever he goes by these days, wasn't actually using Warpaint, so probably doesn't even care about that change to them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see to what the meta shifts for their overall equipment choices. It was always kind of a little lame just to see nothing but war paint, so making it a little bit more of a thinking equipment will be pretty fun.
So I don't think that the Wargong worked that way, because like you would only retain it. It would inflict normal damage, but you would still retain it as a crit. So 2 crits would still, or a normal crit in melee on it would still kill it. It just inflicts the normal damage.
Oops, I might have been playing that wrong then. That or just there may have been some miscommunicate or not miscommunication, but confusion around it. So maybe they're just trying to make it a little bit more clear.
So
But yeah, regardless,
you're a cheater, is what I'm hearing.
yes, I'm a cheater. But all those 2 times I've played Felgar Ravagers and it didn't even matter.
And then we do have some changes to the Chaos Cult. So they lost a devotee, so 1 less on there. And then the Winged Accursed Gift, it deletes the first bullet point, so I think they can't traverse. Is that what it was?
I think it gave it fly or something, because looking right now on the sheet, it's now that they only can ignore the first 2 of climb, drop, or traverse. I believe Winged gave them fly, at least the first bullet point. Let me go find my physical copy of the book and I'll get back to you in a second. But actually, really quick, having 1 less devotee, love that. I hate Chaos Cult. They're probably my worst matchup, and seeing them get nerfed at all brings me extreme excitement, and it's a significant change overall. 1 less body adds up a lot.
I think they could have lost the second body and still been okay. The team's extremely strong. 13 bodies would be plenty on them, I think.
Yeah, from what I've heard, they could still even use losing 1 more devotee and still be in a good place. So that is going to be it for the balanced data slates. Connor is going to come back at some point and let us know what the bullet point is that we're missing. While he's looking for that, Tyler, what's your favorite change to this?
I'm just happy to see clowns get nerfed. I love them, but I hate them. They just needed changes a long time ago. And then I think the Vet Guard changes are extremely good. I feel like they are pretty light with Felkor Ravagers overall and Commandos. Both are still extremely strong teams that you can still expect to see at top tables by good players. Don't discount them yet.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be really sad that the clowns got some nerfs. I don't think there's anybody that likes the clowns. I feel like there's teams that people are like, oh, okay, I don't play this team, but I enjoy this team. And I don't think there's anybody that doesn't play clowns that really enjoys that team.
I know Max will at least be upset, so sorry, Max, that your clowns got touched, but it'll be more fun to play against you now. And I'm back with the book. I was wrong. Winged, the first bullet point was ignore all modifiers to your movement characteristic. Realistically, that's pretty cool, but I don't know how often that came into effect. But it'll be helpful now when Warp come and play I can never say that word. The instability psychic action.
I mean, not having your movement, affected ever is incredibly powerful. It's one of the things that makes Implacable just, the must take when it comes to, Legionaries, and why Nurgle is still probably slightly stronger than any of the other marks for Legionaries,
Connor, did you have a favorite change from the balanced data slate?
Yes, I did. That'd be the Warp Coven changes. I'm very excited by this team. I'm very happy for it. Hopefully the Kroot gets some more love, and then that would probably replace it. But right now, Warp Coven.
All right, so what I'm hearing is you're gonna put the Admech away. You're gonna go Warp Coven.
Either Warp Coven or Herotech. Both teams kind of scratch an itch that you don't really get with the Hunter Clade, which is like some really powerful, cool guys. Like Hunter Clade's got some awesome operatives and they're exciting, but they're not the most in terms of like this one single piece is a powerhouse. So I'm gonna be excited to play some sorcerers or some like Cryptech does 9 actions crap.
So meta chasing is what I'm hearing right now. You're going for one of the 2 strongest new teams, the new hotness.
A little bit. Both teams always interested me. Like the problem that the 3 most, at least not thematic, but like conceptually interesting teams to me were Hunter Clade, because I just love Admech and I also like the ability of like swapping in operatives. Warp Coven to the extent that it solves that same, but it's even more so that cracked out energy of like I have a tool for every job. But the tools they had were like tools you give a 3-year-old to like practice with construction, like those little like plastic ones you pick up at the dollar store. Now the tools are at least made out of metal, so hopefully it's a good change. And then Herotech was always cool just because I'm like, it's elites, but I'm not playing Marines, which was something that was pretty neat. And they look cool. I like that robot part, even if they're not, the good type of robots that the Admech are.
This was like Fisher Price's My First Kill Team.
Kind of like, yeah, Fisher Price's My First Tool Set is essentially how I described Warp Coven. Now it's like something you get like a 13-year-old or whatever when they like I want to learn how to make handcrafted birdhouses or something. I don't know. But Warp Coven are on the up and up, and I'm excited by that.
It's the hyper tough tool set that you see at Walmart for Christmas that your grandparents get you. You're like,
Yeah, that's the
like,
one.
you're a boy and you've turned 13. Here's a tool set for you, and you're like, cool. I don't know what to do with any of this yet.
Well, I think my favorite change is going to be the dozer, because I when I painted up my Hearthkin, I thought that was one of the coolest guys because he's just a dude who's looking to square up on someone. So I might have to bring out my Hearthkin. They're ready to go, and I think it'll be a fun guy to play with. But I'm also kind of excited about the Commandos changes because I've got them ready to go too, and I want to play them, but I also don't want to look like I'm a sweaty meta chaser. So it's I think it's time to bring those guys out.
At least you're avoiding what I'm doing. And just before we move on to another topic, we asked the community this question a little bit too, both on Instagram and our Discord. And there was some interesting stuff. The community on Instagram tied people were most excited for the Warp Coven buffs, and Farstalker Kinband, both of those getting 80 or 42% of the vote. So that was pretty interesting. But compared to our Discord, the most excited thing people were excited for was the Heretic Circle changes. So overall, people are pretty excited by just buffs across the board for these teams. And then following quickly behind that was Commando nerfs, which is probably it was very interested to see the disparity between like more people excited for Commando nerfs over the Clown nerfs. But I think we see more Commandos overall, so that might be shaping people's voting results.
That's a balanced data slate. But we also had some exciting news this week. Finally, like we mentioned in the opening, Nightmare. We have some information about Nightmare. So, on if you're lucky enough to have Warhammer Plus, you got to see the Warhammer Plus bat rep, which they have a certain flavor to them. Sometimes they play stuff right. And they also like. Can they play a little slower, please? Because they just absolutely flash up the rules that they're playing with, and you don't even have a chance to do it unless you can pause them. And the app sucks, so it takes forever to try and figure them out. But we finally got to see them a little bit.
I am extremely excited about both of these teams. I don't think I've been this excited about a box for Kill Team possibly ever. I was pretty excited for Hand of the Archon, but this tops it out by a long shot.
Yeah, I feel like you flashed into Hand of the Archon a little bit, but then got right off them real quick. So, which of these two, Tyler, is it Night Lords? Are you gonna go? Are you gonna be a Daydrake?
I'm definitely gonna be painting up both of them. Night Lords will be first. I've been kind of getting some bodies ready, as I said earlier, for them. Just super stoked about it. Ave Dominus Nox.
Definitely excited to see those painted up, as I was saying earlier. And yeah, just excited to see the rules overall. There was plenty of stuff that was just crazy. The Mandrakes, oh god, there's so much they can do. The whole Shadow Passage ability, which allows them to essentially just like, instead of normal move, you remove your operative and then set it back up within Shadow, but not within engagement range. That's crazy. That sounds so cool. It's going to be nuts. It's going to probably be a little broken, but I'm excited to see it. It's very thematic, that's for sure.
So we should get the entire rules reveal this weekend when the influencers like can roll a crit, can actually like release all their stuff. So let's just talk a little bit about the rules, and we'll probably dig deeper into them next weekend. So from the Warhammer Plus Battle Report, what was some cool things you guys saw? I know Connor, you like the Shadow Passage. I personally like the ability for the elites to pass. So the Night Lords had an ability, I can't remember what it's called, but basically like foreboding, that's what it is. In the firefight phase, when it's your turn to activate a friendly operative, you can discard one of your prescience tokens to skip that activation. I think that's going to be super important for teams, especially lower model count teams that are elite, to have more strategy and make people go before you go.
Yeah, I think that teamed with their ability to prevent an operative from activating. So when you go to activate, they can spend a CP and just be like, no, you're not activating. You have to activate someone else, is incredibly powerful also. It makes that second turning point, a little bit more controllable for an elite team also.
Another cool thing I saw was disconcerting mimicry. So I think this is uh, the guy that's got a body up on a post screaming at people. And a couple things you can do if you're within red of someone for 1 AP. It's a psychic action. You can subtract 1 APL from someone. You can change its order, or you can perform a free dash for that operative and move them into a different location. What do you guys think about that one?
That is so exciting. I'm hoping it's kind of a preview for what the Patriarch can do. Probably that stuff may be a little bit stronger, but it seems incredibly good because just having the operative move 3 inches anywhere can be crazy powerful. You're moving a guy off a point. Now they're maybe not scoring like capture or recover item. You can move a guy standing out into the open. That's obviously really good. Flipping an order in itself is super powerful because maybe you're turning a guy that was going to get an Overwatch shot off, or you're making a guy that was in cover no longer in cover and he gets shot. It's super crazy, and I'm very excited to see it in the game. It might be a little OP, but oh well. Like, it's a 6-man team. I'm sure we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. One of the things I really like as far as like teams is I like teams that exert a lot of board control and control what your opponent does. So I'm really really excited about the Night Lords. Like all of their stuff is like very, oh, I'm not going now. No, you can't activate that person. Actually, this person's going to do a dash off the point, and then I'm going to do all this other stuff. I really really jive with that. I'm very very excited.
They've also got one premonition, which you can discard one of your prescience tokens to get a free CP. So, and the prescience tokens, I think I'm saying that right. You get a D3 of them each turn, so you get 1 to 3. But you got a bunch of extra CP with this turn with this team, and a bunch of extra things to do. Sounds like.
I think it's just cool. I always kind of like the token tracking stuff, like you see with Sisters, or rather Novitiates, Faith points, and then the Elite points and the Casterkin, and what I imagine we'll kind of see with the Hearthkin, or not Hearthkin, but the whatever the new dwarves are called in the Termination box, the Pioneers. They've mentioned something like that, but it's kind of adds another unique way to play against a team by trying to make them burn their like special tokens, which I think is a very fun like gameplay mechanic. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff they can do with it, and I'm curious to see if they've shown it all off, or if there's going to be a couple more that we see on Saturday, which could be pretty exciting.
So what I was reading from people who have early release copies is that they didn't do a very good job showing off these teams, and that Saturday, when we see the full rules reveal, we'll see the full capability of these teams. So very, very excited about that. I think I've said very, very excited like 7 times since we've been talking about the Night Lords and these teams. So as you guys can tell, I'm excited.
Well, I've mentioned it before. I think this is one of my favorite times of year when we get balanced Dataslate, but then also we get the new team rules. And, I mean, I have to work Saturday, but I'm going to be waking up first thing in the morning to watch all the influencers and see all the new rules because it's the most fun time of the year when we get to discuss the new kill teams. The Discord blows up. Everybody's super excited. Everybody's arguing about stuff. Everybody's talking about how good or bad they're going to be. So yeah, I'm super excited for this weekend.
Yeah, when I woke up Wednesday morning and the balanced data slate had dropped, I was still so bleary eyed and stuff, and I'm trying to look at Discord on my phone, and I couldn't even keep up with the conversation. I had no clue what was going on. It took me a while to even comprehend. Stuff starts moving so fast, and the conversation's so lively. Every time there's big news about this stuff or events, and the community blows up, and it's really great to see.
It's like Kill Team Christmas.
It was my birthday, so it was a great present. But it was very exciting. Like I said, I'm just waking up, and I wasn't even really expecting it. I kind of completely forgot. Originally, I thought they released on Thursdays, so it was very exciting to see it on a Wednesday, and it was just good. Solid change across the board. Very excited by it, and very excited for another Christmas this Saturday. Like, I'm probably going to be up till midnight waiting for those rules drops.
Well, we knew the balanced data slate. Well, we knew the Warhammer Plus episode was coming. Didn't know the balanced data slate was coming at the same time, so it was a little bit of both. So anything from the mandrakes besides the shadow protection that you guys saw? What do you guys think about how they do their saves? Because it's kind of backwards with their shadow fire or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's looking pretty crazy. So like a 1 as a crit and anything like, so if you had a 3+ save, you would be rolling the opposite of that. You see that with the little pain gun that the grenade guy, the disciple of Yelindra, has on Hand of the Archon. I think it's a fun mechanic. It's like very fitting for some of the esoteric stuff that the mandrakes are bringing to the table.
Do you think it's kind of like a weird, I don't know, what's a way to say it? Like, did they really need to put this in? Like, I'm trying to figure out the way to phrase this as far as like how this works. Should it just be they take one away from their save, or do they have to? Because you have to like rewire your brain how to do saves against these guys.
So I think it's like a really interesting mechanic because it removes teams that have like invulnerable saves as their primary saves. So like stuff like demons or harlequins, they're gonna be having a real bad time when they get shot by these guys, because it'll take their save characteristic rather than their invulnerable save into account.
It's a very cool one, that's for sure. And I'm glad we're finally kind of getting some more stuff that ignores invuln saves. Not a ton of teams in the game really have them, but excited to see it regardless. And it'll just be neat. I'm happy that there's something now that can shoot clowns off the board. So that's a thumbs up in my book.
Yeah, the clowns are just getting over and over hammered through all this.
Otherwise, though, the main thing that stood out to me that was pretty cool was the we talked about it, but the crazy movement they have, like the shadow passage. Particularly, sorry, I was just asking her to stop, so we'll cut that little section there.
Sierra, knock it off.
But particularly the shadow portal, that thing sounds so cool. Just having people teleport across the map, it's very exciting, and I'm excited to see it play out.
How dare, like, that was just aggressive keyboard typing. All right, listen now.
That was so sad. She turned around and gave me a sad face, and then she picked up a bag of chips, not realizing.
You need to get her a new keyboard with some cherry clears, man.
Yeah, you sent a message about like who's got the cherry blues. I was like, what's a cherry blue?
I
only recognized it because I was like, I think I recognize that term because I know cherry means like keyboard or something.
I guess I'm just too old. I got my old Logitech from like 2003 maybe. From Star Wars Galaxies is when I built the computer that came with this keyboard.
I got a keyboard that's older than Connor for sure in my house. So
like 15 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
I hate you guys.
But I have an old IBM Model M, like the big, buckle spring. I collect keyboards also, or I did for a time. Now I only have 2 keyboards. Collection is much smaller than it was.
Well, we'll have to actually get Sierra officially on the podcast because we've been talking about in the background, talking about getting our partners to play Kill Team and then having them talk about it. And Jenna is wildly afraid of actually having to do that. Also, do y'all partners like listen to this? Do they go back and listen to this after we're done?
I have my partner go through and listen every once in a while. Just to provide feedback. She's an avid podcast listener. I think she listens to 8 hours of podcast a day on average. So she's all about it. She always provides good feedback.
I often have Sierra listening in live. Normally she's just reading on her book, so she gets to hear it while we're recording it live. But not a ton of actually listening to the full release, mostly because she has no idea what we're talking about, other than like answering community questions at the very end. She's like, I kind of recognize some of those terms.
To be fair, I have no idea what we're talking about either, but I also want to start like a little like a Vox Cascadia segment here where I say something and I want to hear if Jenna actually goes back and listens to the podcast, because she said something about like, we're in episode 10 right now. She said something about like, oh, I've listened to like 4 or 5 of them, but I don't think she has. I think she's listened to maybe like 1 or 2. So we're going to start a recurring segment where we say, Jenna, are you listening to the podcast? Gentlemen, can you chime in here and say, Jenna, are you listening to the podcast?
Yeah, Jenna, are you there? Can you hear us? Let us know in the comments. Send us a message.
Come in, Major Jenna. I'm trying to remember the other lyrics to that song. So just listen to the podcast and fill our egos up some.
Well, she's in the other room right now listening, or she's watching like trashy TV. I think it's like Kardashians or like Vanderpump Rules or something. But I want to make this like a recurring segment to see when she actually picks up on it. It's kind of like when I put one of the cactus stickers that Tyler made on her water bottle, and it took her a good 3 weeks to actually like figure out that I put a cactus sticker on there.
So were you the guy sneaking around putting cactus stickers on everybody's water bottle?
I was not. I was not at that event actually. I think I was in Leavenworth at that time.
Yeah, I will not tell you who was sneaking around putting cactus stickers on anything at any location, not just our last event.
I know that Tyler, well, not Tyler, somebody put a bunch of stickers in the Rio in Las Vegas. So if you come across any Kill Team Cascadia stickers in the Rio, it was not Tyler, it was not Greg, for sure. All right, so Nightmare, we'll have more Nightmare conversation next week once we get the full rules. We're going to break them all down and we're going to figure out what the meta is, and then we're not going to play that. But let's talk about Ask Vox Cascadia. So, questions from the community. People jump into the Ask Vox Cascadia channel on our Discord at killteamcascadia.com. So, our first question comes from Shane, caffeine drinker on the Discord. If your kill team had an intro song when going into a match, what would it be?
Ooh, easy. I've said this one all the time because I like the idea of it. But you know how, like, or maybe you don't know, but the AdMech speak their own special AdMech language called Binaric. And I like to imagine the way it sounds to non-binaric speaking humans is like the intro to Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys.
That's pretty solid, actually. It's kind of a deep cut for someone your age.
I know. I unfortunately have a, not even unfortunately, I just strangely have a deep love for the Beastie Boys. Sabotage also, like, not a ton, but you know, they come on my playlist every once in a while. And Sabotage is another great one. But Intergalactic's intro is one of my favorite like song intros of all time because this is so weird, and I absolutely love to imagine that's how at least my Skitarii like speak to one another.
It's funny because Intergalactic brings me to like summer 1998, maybe, when I was.
That's the year I was born, so it's perfect
Jesus
timing.
Christ, I was in California as like a teenager, and I was like 18 or 19 at that time.
Yeah, I was sophomore, junior in high school, right around then. So that's a flashback for me. But that song was so huge back then. Absolute banger.
So mine personally would be Joe Esposito from the Karate Kid soundtrack, "You're the Best Around."
I think that's a solid one. I mean, for your Casserkins, I assume.
Yeah, and actually, I will tell you that the tournament that I won at Shiv Games. So when I play, if I win my first game. I try and focus. I try and continue to like stay in the zone and play. I went out to my car, sat in the parking lot of Shiv Games, and had like pump up music and listened to the Karate Kid soundtrack after the after the first game. After like second, third game, I listened to like some like, I don't know, like 80s hairband metal stuff too. But I think "You're the Best Around," Joe Esposito, like Karate Kid, that's my intro song.
I think that's a really solid pick there. You know, it fits your personality too. It's what I would expect from you, Chuck.
All right, so Tyler, what's your intro song then?
I mean, like, for my Night Lords, I think I'm going to have to go with Bolt Throwers Through the Eye of Terror, from the Realm of Chaos, like, which is their first release. Absolute, like, grinding death metal masterpiece. You know, it's got John Blanche on the cover of the album. Bolt Throwers, like, the Warhammer band, too. Perfect.
I mean, you did an entire season basically of Kill Team in Kill Team Cascadia based on Bolt Thrower, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, like every event was named after a bolt thrower song, and then you know we have the dice thrower shirts out there now, which is kind of to celebrate that season and my love for like heavy metal and Warhammer.
And I mean, we'll talk about it later, but new shirts coming soon, Tyler?
Yes, any day. As soon as I get the art, I will get the pre-orders up. We're gonna do. It's gonna be a little bit of a staged launch on here, but it's gonna be really exciting stuff.
Also, do you guys want me to make you feel really old right now?
Sure.
I kind of had a vague idea of that Joe Esposito song, Chuck. I did not realize that was from the Karate Kid.
Yeah, it's from the Karate Kid, dude. Come on.
I'm sorry. I haven't seen the movie in quite some time. And I think I probably saw that song first in a different movie before watching The Karate Kid. So, like, in my head, it was associated with, like, probably some kids movie. I don't know why, but I'm just not thinking Karate Kid, so I'm really sorry for that. On the bright side, Tyler's shirts sound great, so let's just ignore the fact how young I am and how disappointed I just made you guys.
You probably didn't watch Karate Kid until after Cobra Kai, anyways, did you?
No, I saw it back like before Cobra Kai, but I was probably like 10 years old or something, like, mid 2000s.
See, the real oldies know Three Ninjas.
Oh, Three Ninjas Kick Back though. That's the real one.
Oh man, that one was so good. Loved all. I was obsessed with ninja movies when I was a kid. American Ninja, that was my jam. I would rent it over and over and over and over again.
Hey, Sierra might actually be able to join the podcast, but we could just talk about ninja and kung fu movies. I know she loves those, so maybe that's what we'll do instead of like trying to make her learn how to play Kill Team.
Sierra and I are actually going to have a podcast about kung fu movies, starting next week. Let her know.
Oh, we'll do. Yeah, so fall into Vox Cascadia, whatever we end up naming that kung fu podcast.
Well, and then you got the star of American Ninja 1, 2, and 4, Michael Dudikoff.
Oh man, it was so good. I watch those movies every couple of years. Like they're just absolute classic exploitation. Like appropriation. They're so bad and they're so good at the same time.
So speaking of like exploitation and appropriation, like I just finished Brother's Son on Netflix. One of my besties, Donald, recommended it to me, and it's an amazing show. Y'all should watch it. Especially go watch it so they make a season 2, because I finished season 1 and then found out that they're making season 2. But Jim Cotta is the show that all of the main characters love in that, which is basically like an American gymnast who goes and does a bunch of martial arts stuff. Literally, like is on a horse, like the pommel horse, I think it is, that they use in gym to like spin around and kick people and stuff. And all the main characters in it are like obsessed with it. So please go watch Brother's Son. I need season 2.
I'm so lost by all those names you just said, but I'll do my best, Chuck.
I've heard good stuff about it. My backlog on stuff to watch is unfortunately 10 million miles long.
Also, if you guys could watch Three Body Problem as well too on Netflix, that was super good, and I need a season 2 of that as well. So back to the community. Zach asked, "What are the most and least Kill Teamy Space Marine chapters?"
Are we doing just loyalists or like all 18 legions?
I think we're gonna go all 18. I think we can go like what's like Black Templars, like what do they call them? Black Templars, Fleshers.
Like I know what you're talking about. The chapters that have their own specific detachments in 40k as well.
Yes.
Well, at least for chaos, if we're going by kill team by the intention of like sneaky operatives doing like spec ops missions, world leaders. For my somewhat limited knowledge of them, they just like to charge at you and punch you in the face. I can't imagine a world leader agreeing to a sneaky mission unless he somehow gets like a suppressor for a chain axe, which sounds pretty cool, but I don't think that's a thing.
Like sneaky is all relative. If everyone else is dead, then it's still stealth,
I can see how you played like Hitman games, like kill everyone and then I'm still sneaky.
The problem with Hitman games for me is that I have to get it like perfect, no detections, nothing. So I like reset over and over until it's like nothing, till it's flawless. Love finding that no kill other than the target in a accidental way on games like that.
Also, random tangent on Hitman games. Have you seen the briefcase you can throw in Hitman games that has like some crazy physics to it?
Absolutely. I think that we really just need to give that to the RBDs and balance it out. Like lore wise, they have similar stuff.
That or the explosive rubber ducky. That was probably my favorite item in those games. I just love that thing so much.
My least Kill Team Space Marine chapter would have to be the Imperial Fists, because all they want to do is build a fortress, right? So they're going to never move out of deployment zone, score no points. That's got to be it, right?
That sounds good to me. I think Iron Hands are pretty boring. Like they're just like self-loathing. They don't like really do anything. Sorry, Iron Hands fans. And then if you want to get a little obscure, I think that the Star Phantoms probably like wouldn't do kill team stuff, because like unless you're in their space of the space, they're not fucking around with you.
That or maybe like the White Scars too. I would like to see a motorbike in Kill Team. Not really, that'd probably be overpowered as shit. That'd be a hard sneaking mission. Like they're good warriors, but I just don't see them really like deciding to get off the bikes if we're just going like full memes of the chapters and stuff.
I mean, we almost had the tricycles, but they took the Hernkin Jaegers off their trikes, and threw them on the ground with their trench coats.
Hey, you're forgetting too soon that the White Scars are actually the poster boys of the last edition of Kill Team.
Were they really? I thought it was the Space Wolves.
Yeah, I
Because I
thought it
always
was
see that like Space Wolves versus Tau box.
No, I got the book right here. It's got White Scars right on the cover of the annual, the most recent one for the previous edition.
Oh,
So-
that's pretty cool. As for most Kill Teamy, I think it's pretty simple. We can all probably agree either the Raptors or the Raven Guard or any sort of Raven Guard successor chapter.
I mean, you have to go with the Death Watch Kill Team, right?
I kind of forgot Death Watch were a thing, but yeah, that makes sense. They're the guys that invented Kill Team as a term, so
I mean,
probably goes to them.
literally have the name in their name.
Maybe a Death Watch that's mostly made out of Raven Guard and Raven Guard successors, like the ultimate Kill Team sneaky mission boys you can get, all in beaky armor, of course.
Yeah, but we all know that the Dark Angels were actually doing Kill Teams before everyone, right?
Stop trying to make Dark Angels a thing. Nobody likes them.
Everyone knows Dark Angels are the coolest chapter.
Incorrect. It's my chapter, my own special one. They're the best because I made them myself, and that's what this hobby's all about.
It's actually Blood
Namaste.
Angels.
Okay, well, I mean, and then probably for Chaos guys, Alpha Legion, like they're plans within plans within plans within more plans. So I can see that being like a Kill Team, like waiting till the very right moment.
What about the Night Lords? How do you guys feel about them for a fit for Kill Team?
Probably like tier 2, or not tier 2, but like number 2 of the Chaos guys. Definitely up there from what I know of them. I'm thinking like perfect, never getting spotted by anyone's Splinter Cell level without killing anyone, So that's why I'm going to like the Alpha Legion over the Night Lords, because I think relatively the Night Lords would probably like do what you were talking about, kill everyone. Sure, they'd hide the bodies, but like it's not sneaky if you're still killing everyone type of deal.
I mean, Kill Team doesn't, like, special operations don't have to be sneaky. They just have to get the job done.
Okay, that's fair. I can see that at least.
I mean, it's really points team. It's not Kill Team.
Objective Team doesn't have that same ring to it,
Yeah, Capture Team. Woo!
None of those roll off the tongue the way Kill Team does. It's just some nice, perfect, like 4-letter word, and rolls off the tongue excellently.
Objective Team Cascadia.
Chuck, we're gonna have to work on our like naming conventions because these are not it, man.
All right, and then Adelaide has a question. How do you transport kill teams or other minis across long distances via plane or U-Haul safely?
I have a Table War case. I love my Table War case, other than a few minor gripes, but that's just like little things. I know they're extremely popular in our community in the Portland and Salem area. You can see like anywhere from 10 to 15 on most game nights. That's one of the most popular ways I know of.
Are those the cool like partially clear sides with like the glass and stuff Kill Teams? Or not Kill Team, but cases?
Yes, they are. I've personally bought 4 of them, so they're fantastic. I strongly support them. I think they're probably the best way to transport a Kill Team on a plane or something like that.
That's good to know. I've been looking for a while to get something a little bit better than the foam because I'm tired of all my little bits being broken on my rust stalkers. Otherwise, if something probably a little bit cheaper and easier to do, just a good old magnet tin and like a Costco cookie bin. It's magnetic, it's simple to set up. As long as you're not like chucking that thing into a brick wall, your models are going to be safe. Maybe a little bit of like foam on the sides just if you want to be extra, but I think that's a pretty really reasonable thing. And Bright Side is pretty small. You can fit into most backpacks if you're just going for like you're only bringing a couple of stuff with you. Like maybe you're taking a plane to a tournament type of thing.
Tyler, didn't we make a Table War case monument at one point and take a picture of it one night at Guardian Games?
Yeah, we have the Table War pyramid. I think it's like right around 12 cases, far from as many as we have in the community.
I think for the next big tournament we have, we should see how many cases we can stack on top of each other.
I like that idea. Table War, sponsor us, give us some cases to give away to our community. It'd be really cool to see everyone decked out with one.
I personally go with it's like plastic container from Target with a sheet of roofing. It's like roofing metal in the bottom of it that I actually purchased a rivet gun to staple it down to the bottom of it. And that's my go-to. It's small enough that it'll fit in my backpack so I can take an entire kill team with me. I don't have all that bling that y'all have with the Table War. And please stop using foam, Connor.
I'll see what I can do, man. It looked really cool. And it works for anything that's not super, like fiddly bitty. From Space Marines or Imp Guard, it's probably pretty good. But unfortunately, I play the most fiddly bits army there is.
I will build you. I will build you a case. I will buy you a tableware case even too. Please stop using foam.
I'll take you up on that offer. Buy me one right now, Chuck. Do it.
Well, I already got you in
Do
God
it.
hands, so yeah, I can. I'll make you a case.
That sounds pretty cool.
Well, I
Thank
need to
you.
figure out a case for when I actually get my AdMech done. So when I figure out a case size for my AdMech, so they're not too tall in mine, I will make another one for you as well too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That sounds really cool. I'm excited to see it.
All right, and then Adelaide has one more question. Why are so many of the Primarchs and Space Marines bald?
I mean, the cause for baldness is high testosterone. So they just got that high T, you know? The ones with all the hair, low T.
So I mean, I don't have any personality, but I have a pretty glorious head of hair. If I'm not gonna, if I'm not gonna lie. So are you saying that I have low testosterone? Should I talk to my doctor?
I mean, that's between you and your doctor. That being said, the difference between like 5,000% testosterone and like a very small percent of testosterone in most men, not all, I'm not a doctor, so this isn't medical advice, is probably not going to make any kind of difference once it gets off of those charts. Then you should definitely see a doctor. But yeah, I'm jealous of your hair, is what I'm saying.
All right, I'll take that. Connor, why do you think that all the Primarchs and most of the Space Marines, or a lot of the Primarchs and the Space Marines, are bald?
They just didn't have good barbers on a lot of the planets they grew up on, I imagine. Other than Sanguinius, most of them have pretty, either just chopped, straightened military haircuts or just bald. And probably because they were tired of their hair getting in the way of combat. And like, I don't see the Space Wolves planet having a barber. They might have like a cool guy that can teach you how to braid some cool styles in your hair, but like, there's no barbershops there. There's not one on like what is the Iron Hands planet, but that guy's bald. I'm pretty sure there's probably not a barber there. They're too busy trying to like stay alive against crazy stuff, and so they just never learned to deal with it. So they just shaved it off to get it out of the way.
I mean, he's definitely bald. He's the most hairless on the head out of any of us at this, or out of any of the Primarchs at this point.
I mean, Horus is like he goes with the top knot, and then you pass that on to Abaddon. But Sanguinius does have some glorious locks.
You know who has surprisingly nice locks is the lion, for being a feral child in the forest.
I mean, he's using that all natural spring water. I mean, he's probably got like a really good routine.
He just reminds me of the Lannister like dad or from Game of Thrones. So I can see that he's a guy that, like, I imagine, like you said, Chuck, has the routine to like make sure his hair looks intimidating and well kept.
I feel like Sanguinius would have a really good skin routine too. I feel like he's gonna be doing his goops, as my girlfriend would say.
I think Sanguinius would be like, it would be a luxurious thing. He'd be pampering himself. Whereas I feel like the lion would be doing it. Same with Dorn, in a very regimented way. It'd be like, this is the way you take care of your skin, protect your outer shell. This is what we do because we're respectable, kind of thing.
Do you think that like Gilliman would have a good skin routine, but also like probably wanted to put that in the Codex of Astartes, but maybe got edited at the last minute?
I think that's very accurate. Like, he seems like a very like balanced kind of like Frominos kind of guy. He's like, good skincare is part of being a good soldier. Clean armor, clean domicile, clean face.
So, not including Mortarion, who would have the worst skin routine of the Primarchs?
Ooh, Conrad Kurz, for sure. He's the worst out of any of it. If you pick a topic and you're like, who's the worst at it, other than like maybe like killing or being a psychopath, it's probably
Or just
Conrad
being
Kurz.
the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, he's also the best in a way, like in a bad way. He's a bad boy.
You don't think Conrad Kurz is like getting all that extra collagen from like skin and stuff from other people?
I mean, like, but I don't think he ever like cleans it off. I think it just like sits on his face. He's that old farmer who's never washed his face. Only it's blood. He's a blood farmer.
All right, so who would be the one that had like surprised you with a really good skin routine, just like out of the blue?
I think like Vulcan probably. Like Vulcan's always in the hot forges, just gonna get sweaty, and I imagine to him like part of he's really into like the artistic integrity of like making all these beautiful pieces of machinery and just like being a forge master. And to him, I imagine he's going to be like, my body is a part of my tool set, and I want my body to be like well kept. So he's going to have a surprisingly good skin routine as well.
I mean, I feel like he's got to moisturize too. So because you can't like, Like, you can't be in the forges, you can't be like burning Eldar children and not have moisturizing routines, right?
Exactly. The flames themselves are going to exfoliate you, so you might as well just throw in some moisturizing and like some skin care because you're going to be already halfway there.
Absolutely. I think that Alpharius and Omegon would be incredibly well like moisturized, but like with like baby oil or something, so they're like slick and hard to grab. It's not just for like a skincare purpose. It's so that like you literally can't lay hands on them. It'd be like some weird kind of shit like that.
With how shiny their armor is, I can just imagine that like they wake up, get through their morning day, and then like put on the armor and then walk through a shower of baby oil or something. And that's just going to be on them for the rest of the day.
They definitely polish their heads every morning, just like Horus did.
Do you think it's like do you think they polish their own, or do you think it's like somebody else, like a Marine on either side of them, and just like run a rag back and forth?
We don't need your fan fictions on here, Chuck.
Oh no, that's the other podcast where I ship the Lion and Farsight just for you, buddy.
You know that's what I want to hear. I bet Farsight has no skincare routine. I bet that dude is like a cratered blackhead, filled like blue guy.
I mean, do you think that was like tough for the Lion to get past in your fan fiction where you ship Farsight and the Lion? Do you think like the Lion was like, I love him no matter what he looks like?
I think it's about kindred souls between them. It's already enough that he's a wretched Xenos, but like they're sword bros. The moment that they cross swords, they knew.
And when you say cross swords, you mean
Swords.
Oh, okay. We'll leave it at that. All right. Well, so we've talked about the Primarch skin routine. We talked about Nightmare. We talked about the balanced data slate. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Love to have y'all on. Love to chat with y'all. Where can we find y'all? Connor?
Of course, yeah. Always glad to be on. Thanks so much to everyone that's listening. Shout out to our international audience. We've had a surprisingly solid amount of listeners from all over the world. So thank you so much. I unfortunately can't remember any country names right now because I suck. But I think the Denmark and then strangely enough, Argentina was in there. So thank you to those people listening from all over the world. But where you can find us is at Spanaway, SPANNAWAY, at everything. Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all that jazz.
Shout out to Albania. Got a couple buddies in Albania that have been listening. So thanks for listening. It means a lot. You can find me at Lowbrow Minis on Instagram or lurking on any of the Discords. You can find me if you ask for me or tag me. Usually Tyler, Lowbrow High Life, stuff like that.
And then we are at Vox Cascadia on Instagram. Connor has been doing a great job getting that updated with some of our social media stuff and some pictures from what we've been doing. Make sure you check out the Chucky Con photos from last week. They were really cool, including my dog Indiana Bones. I am Painting Cave Minis on Instagram, and I don't update it enough, so you can go and see what I've done in the past. But you can also find us on killteamcascadia.com for our Discord, as well as find out what tournaments we have going on through the Discord. We have the Blunt Force Beatdown coming on April 20th. We only have 5 tickets left for it, for a 48-player tournament at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. We will have our normal prize support, which is a ton of stuff. We're going to have a hobby winner. We're going to have a sportsmanship winner. We're going to have a bounty board. It's going to be a great time. You can come there and beat up on Connor as AdMech. You can meet the great Brandon Bean. He's going to be one of our TOs there. And then we are also going to be announcing probably this weekend a tournament up in Northwest Washington in Connor's area. So keep an eye out for that too.
Yeah, very excited for that. And anyone that's in the Washington, Tacoma, Seattle, Kitsap area, you better be there. And if you're not, you're dead to me. Not really. I love you all very deeply, but please show up. We would love to have this thing be an absolute blast and max out in players. So keep your eyes out or ears open. Both, I guess.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. And thank goodness we made it through another balanced data slate with no buffs to AdMech.
You're such a dick. I just want a frag grenade, man, or like a phosphor blast carbine, or like a tank. Is that too much to ask for?
Yes, it is.
Damn it.